I titled today's conversation Mind Map, Your Attention Reveals Your Divine Inheritance. Your attention reveals your divine inheritance. Now, if I would have heard a statement like this, a statement that I'm making right now, your attention reveals your divine inheritance, back in the days, I would have said, how is that true? If I look around my world, I do not see the car that I want on my driveway. I do not see the money in my bank account that I would like to see. I don't see whatever, you name it, label of prosperity, whatever I define as prosperity. So how can my attention reveal my divine inheritance? And now we know clearly that is what is called judging by appearances. In the Bible, it states, do not judge by appearances, but by righteous judgment. Righteous judgment means you are that prosperity already. You are that perfection. Or as I say sometimes, you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Existence equals prosperity. That's it. Existence equals prosperity. As you know that existence equals prosperity, the conditioning that suggests, where is it? Judging by appearances. I don't see the car in the driveway. I don't see the money in the bank account. That conditioning dissolves, and the opportunities which were always there are seen. I speak from personal experience. I've been a full-time entrepreneur since 2009. 2009. I started in IT business in 2009 to 13. Prior to that, I did 10 years in corporate IT, and then 2013, I transitioned from my IT business and went into business consulting, as well as I started my other YouTube channel, which I grew to over 400,000 subscribers. And what I've seen time and time again is that my attention reveals my divine inheritance in form, some shape or form. And it can only not appear that way if I was judging by appearances, but no shame and condemnation. It is due to conditioning the individual is identified with that causes them to judge by appearances. If they did not have that conditioning in mind, they would not judge by appearances. An example would be if an individual is identified by a condition that suggests the money, if it's not in the bank account, then I am not prosperity. I would experience suffering. Maybe intrusive thoughts, troubling thoughts, emotional reactivity, stress, frustration. And no shame, no condemnation. That is the result of conditioning. So by dissolving that conditioning, and I created a subconscious mind program on this. I'll link in the description to it. This is what I've been doing for years. By dissolving the conditioning, what happens is I'm able to see opportunities when I look at the numbers. So for example, a person looking at their bank account, they might start thinking thoughts of lack and limitation. This theory of divine inheritance is not true, God does not like me, or something like that. You name it. All kinds of intrusive thoughts, all kinds of troubling thoughts, all kinds of untrue thoughts. And then their attention, as a result of identification to these thoughts, reveals more evidence of the confirmation bias. Now, if they do not identify with these thoughts and they know that existence itself, the fact that you exist is infinite prosperity and you are witnessing your divine inheritance appearing more so, if they know that, what happens is they see opportunity. So an example would be, all of a sudden they'll get an idea to roll out with a new business initiative. Or they might say, that's fine. And why would they say that's fine? Because if they zoom out, they'll see the market fluctuates. Just like, for example, business revenues may fluctuate. If you work out and go to the gym, maybe on some days your output is not as much as previous days, which is completely fine. Completely fine. It doesn't mean you don't make progress. If you've been consistent, you see progress is made over the course. Now, your attention naturally is always revealing your divine inheritance. Practically speaking, in the video that I released last week, if you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to it. I mentioned that being an entrepreneur for 16 years, I can even summarize it like this. I say, what we do is we take physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, and relationships and combine them in creative ways to grow our business. And that is one way of actualizing your divine inheritance through entrepreneurship. Upon being a consultant for many years, since 2013, and also building 3 successful businesses, I see this always happens. Physical assets can include, and you don't need physical assets, but some businesses do include physical assets. And even if you run an online business, you probably have a laptop or phone or something like that. Intangible assets, knowledge, wisdom, reference experience, life experience. Do you know that you go through life experiences? You learn things, you grow, you find ways to transmute problems into opportunities, challenges into solutions. And those can be offered to people in exchange for compensation. That's how I got involved with my IT business. Prior to my IT business, I did 10 years in corporate IT. Prior to that, I grew up with computers and I would fix computers. And once in a while, people would pay me for it. And at the time, I would think, why would people pay me for it? This is so easy and effortless to me. Your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise, the areas that you excel in, is part of your divine inheritance. You can take your knowledge, wisdom, reference experience, life experiences, which you experience as you live, and turn them into digital assets, training programs, videos, like I'm doing right now with this video. Physical assets. You can create physical products, doing what you love to do. And it doesn't feel stress or force-based. So that's an example of intangible assets, knowledge, wisdom, expertise, life experience, etc. Digital assets. This video is a digital asset. Software, digital asset. YouTube channel, digital asset. Relationships. People that you know. Vendors, clients, mastermind partners, etc., etc. Many different ways that we define relationships. I recommend watching the video. We got into the nuances of this in Tuesday's video last week. I'll link in the description to it. So these are practical examples of acres of diamonds. Physical assets, intangible assets, digital assets, and relationships. Your attention naturally reveals them. Like right now, I'm looking at my microphone. I'm looking at my laptop. Yet when I look at my microphone or look at my laptop, I don't start thinking about other people who have YouTube channels or who own laptops and say they have an ability to make way more money with their microphone or their laptop. What comes up to me is, what is a way I could talk about my microphone and my laptop to benefit you, to articulate the point? Hey, what if I got a couple people together at my place and we did a video recording and I can use our microphone, this microphone which is on a boom here, and we could do a podcast together. The laptop, I could process that video. Hey, that video can get a lot of views. I have done videos like that. Podcast or discussion videos with clients. I make videos with my laptop and this microphone. I put it out there. And some of my videos that I created on my other channel have millions of views. And not only do they have millions of views, they had generated millions of dollars of revenue. How so? Not just from the AdSense. Person may think, how? Do some calculations. There's no way you made that amount of money of AdSense. You're right. Depending on your CPM, you could do really well. The money was made on the back end, the digital products, the consulting, the joint venture deals, the affiliate deals that came from the videos, and also the AdSense combined. That's what I see. I see infinite potential. Now, back in the days, I did not see this. I said, it's just a microphone. It's just a laptop. Nowadays, everybody has a microphone. As a matter of fact, on your smartphone, the microphone is quite great. And now there's AI filters that you could run it through that do the audio editing for you, that these microphones on a phone sound professional. And you can create a podcast. You don't need to buy a $500 microphone to do it. You could do it with your phone right now. You can put together a video, put it out there. People benefit greatly from it. And then you get AdSense. You can create coaching programs, training programs, everything that I cover in my book here. The Direct Path to $1 million, turn what you already have into a fortune. I go through example after example after example from personal experience. If you're interested in the book, I'll link in the description to it. So my attention reveals my divine inheritance. Now, the same is true with relationships. If I sit down with a prospect, or if I sit down with a client, a consulting client, immediately what starts flying in my mind, not in an overwhelming way, is opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. If we're talking about generating more revenue in their business, ideas start flowing in. So that's what I mean by your attention reveals your divine inheritance. Now, any of these can be transmuted into additional revenue, growing their business, etc. I have never sat in front of a business and not seen more opportunities. Even if they said it to me, they said, we exhausted all our potential ways of converting our leads into clients, generating more leads, etc. And no shame, no condemnation. I say, well, let's explore. Here are some things that I've seen. Or I might say, hey, remember that thing you mentioned earlier? Here's another way of looking at that, another way of applying that. Or you mentioned that you went to events and you were acquiring clients. Now you switch to running ads online and you're optimizing your ad campaigns. They don't seem to be profitable. And then they might say something like, oh yeah, I can go to those events. And I say, why did you stop going to those events? Oh, we just put our attention more on the ad campaigns. Fair enough. Would you be interested in going to one of these events? Yeah, great idea. I didn't think about it for a while. We were so focused on the ad campaign. So they go to one of these events. They acquire clients. This is an exact example of a conversation that I had with a client that generated more business. See, through conditioning, we may think it only needs to come through particular sources. Yeah, it can come from anywhere. So it's just a combination of physical assets, intangible assets, digital assets, and relationships that we combine in creative ways, and there are infinity ways of combining. Again, watch the video on Tuesday. I'll link a description to it. Infinity ways of combining it to grow your business. Now, this video was inspired by a question that I had received. I would like to go through this question here. It says, can you please share an example in a future video of the artists that you know that found their acres of diamonds? I write and draw comics and share content about storytelling from the thriller genre, from examples in movies, comics, and books. I feel I have the acres of diamonds near me, but I can't identify those assets and then present them to the intended audience, and an example could give me guidance. Sure. I remember when I was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. This was in 2012. I went there for a month, and I remember saying to myself, now's the time to test out my ability to run my business remotely. I would like to have that option. When I was running my IT business, there was a lot of in-person that I was doing, going over to client sites. Can I run the business remotely for 1 month? I know I can do it. So I did. 2012, January 2012, I was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. And while I was there, I was meeting people, and I met an entrepreneur. I think on Thursdays, there's this art show that they do on Fifth Avenue, and I think it still runs. Maybe Thursdays, I don't remember what day of the week it is. But there was a guy there, his name is Peter Tarrant, and he was displaying his artwork, and I got in a conversation with him. He felt very flow-based to me, and he talked about his life story, essentially, of how he moved, and he lives in a jungle, and he paints, and he shares his artwork. So his intangible asset is his style of art, his painting style, which people love. And he has all kinds of deals set up. We didn't get into the nuances of the deals that he has set up, but it's turned into a business. During the conversation, one of the things that I noticed is that he was building relationships with people while he was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, that were opening up doors for him to sell his artwork. And he was doing it in a very natural, effortless way. See, if I say terms like prospecting, it could sound force-based. When you go to a place where your ideal prospects are and you hang out over there, and your intention is to acquire clients, I can assure you, naturally, you'll acquire clients. It naturally happens. If your intention is to be in mutual harmony, pure intention with people, and you go to venues, you'll naturally meet people that you are in mutual harmony with. And not only could they become clients, they could become referral partners. They can open up doors for you to optimize your innovation, your sales, your marketing, your finance, your leadership. So relationships, forming relationships, you may have access to relationships right now. They can be mutually beneficial. They are meant to be mutually harmonious and beneficial. A person may think us versus them, or I need to take from this person, or people always take from me and I get nothing. I recommend not identifying with that conditioning. Attention naturally reveals your divine inheritance. Attention naturally reveals your divine inheritance. Automatically. Without those conditions, you see these things crystal clear. So the assets that you have are the relationships that, and each of us know people, we just might not think about it, that are within those categories that I just mentioned, that are mutually beneficial. And also, know places where you can meet more people like that. And then you have more relationships. Now, you already have knowledge, wisdom, expertise, reference experience, and you're sharing it. And then you can also see what people are doing. And if there's anything that you resonate with, you can adopt some of those styles. Like, for example, when I started my other channel, I was talking about, my first video was buying a one-way ticket and going to Austria, living on a backpack, going into the next phase of business. Now, what I also did was I looked around on YouTube and I said, what are people talking about? What's interesting stuff that I would like to talk about on YouTube? Just like, for example, if I was starting a business now, I'd look around and I'd say, where's all this money being transacted? And any of these are ones that I align with. There's always a match. I've always found a match. A match between the market, and by market, broad spectrum. The world just doing business all day long with whatever. And what do I like to do? So there's a match. There's actually many matches, because if I don't make videos on this channel or stop doing what I'm doing right now, I'm sure I'll find something else to do and it'll work. That's what happened with my IT business. That's what happened with consulting. That's what happened with this channel. So with my other YouTube channel, what I noticed was there was a lot of book summary videos. I don't know if that's still popular now, but there was a lot of book summary videos. And what I noticed about those book summary videos was they were summarizing the books, which was very helpful for people that were looking for book summaries. Once in a while, I would come across a video of someone sharing their experiences of how they applied the book And I noticed that a lot of people really liked that kind of conversation. But personally, I didn't see as much of those conversations happening. And intuitively, I felt that there were more people that were looking to have those kinds of conversations, where someone takes the information from books, applies it, shares their insights and perspectives on it, reference experience, etc., as a result of applying the book, and it's a conversation. And so that's when I started creating the mind mapping videos. My style is mind mapping. And I started to talk about my experiences with the various books, how I've applied them, how they helped me in entrepreneurship, and the channel began to grow. Then I wanted to talk more about my experiences of applying metaphysics, and this was back in 2016, 17, 18, when I felt inspired to talk about how metaphysics was helpful on my entrepreneurial journey. And so what happened was the channel started to grow. And that led to more consulting deals, creating programs, etc. So my diamonds was also my intangible assets, my knowledge, wisdom, reference experience, life experiences, and my experiences reading the books. Intangible assets. And I turned them into digital assets. The digital assets were the videos and my channel, the programs that I created. And what about the physical assets? Well, my laptop, my microphone, not as much physical assets that would be used, let's say, if I did a brick and mortar business or an offline business. Yet, I was able to work with what I already have. That is true when I had my IT business as well. That was true when I had my corporate career as well. So sometimes what's really helpful, and this is something that we cover every Thursday, and I encourage it every Thursday in my group coaching and mastermind service, Flow-Based Prosperity. If you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it. I encourage everyone to, on an ongoing basis, ideally weekly, and that's why I have a conversation about it every Thursday. If they don't sit down and do it, then by having a conversation about it, we are doing it. Sit down and note assets, physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, and relationships that you have access to that can facilitate business growth, that you already have access to. Not only does this release the conditioning of looking elsewhere for your diamonds, through the repetition, what ends up happening is you realize that you have access to all this right now, and then the creative ways naturally emerge of how to combine them to generate more visitors over to your YouTube channel, to generate more leads from those visitors, to acquire clients, to engage in ongoing business with existing clients. And so your attention naturally reveals your divine inheritance. And some of the ways that your divine inheritance can be revealed is by looking at the physical assets, intangible assets, digital assets, and relationships that you have access to right now, and ask yourself the question, how can I value these even more so now? Now, that might sound like a very general question. You can get even more specific if you would like. I recommend it. You could say, how can I value these by applying or utilizing more of the existing physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, by combining them, the wonderful relationships, or valuing the relationships more on the innovation side of my business, creating products and services, optimizing my existing products and services. How can I do so on the marketing side of the business? How can I do so on the sales side of the business, the operations side of the business, the finance side of the business, the leadership side of the business? And if it's more about revenue or bringing in more money, then you can get even more granular and say, with respect to prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, ongoing business with existing clients, or generating more visitors over to my website, my social media, or if it's an offline business, to my retail location. Number two, How can I generate more qualified leads? How can I set it up so that people reach out to me? Call to actions, opt-in forms, etc. Generate more leads from those visitors. And then what are ways that I can convert those leads into clients, utilizing what I already have? You can have a conversation with ChatGPT. It's wonderful. We live in a time right now where we can have a conversation, a very precise conversation with ChatGPT or any kind of AI, and you can get some ideas. Or if you're interested, you could book some consulting sessions with me or one session with me if you'd like. If you're interested in that, I'll link to my website and we can get in contact. The same is true for ongoing business with existing clients, utilizing what you already have. The practice of this, which is actually fun to do, it's really refined thinking. It's really clear thinking, as you can see. It is not confusing thinking. It is not stressful thinking. It is clear thinking. What happens is the conditioning or the programming falls away. It falls away. Shiny object syndrome, fear of missing out, dissolves. It dissolves. And you value your physical assets, intangible assets, digital assets, and relationships more so. And not only do you value them, what happens is your results go up. The revenue, the sales, the numbers go up in your business. And also what happens is the conditioning falls away. And your attention continuously reveals your divine inheritance in front of you right now. You are right now standing on your own acres of diamonds. Now, in the earlier stages of entrepreneurship, let's call it the curiosity and exploration phase, which is $0 to $50,000 a year, not set in stone, but we're just going to use some ballpark numbers. This is where you're interested in opportunities for creating products or services or various streams of income, which doesn't necessarily involve you creating products and services. It could be ad revenue from YouTube. Curiosity. Here are some places where you can go to get some ideas for products and services or ways of monetizing your business. Communities and platform. YouTube. Check out various entrepreneurial channels. See what entrepreneurs are doing. Vlogs. Creator journeys. School communities. Etsy. Amazon Kindle Marketplace. Co-working spaces. This can be done offline as well. Local business meetups and networking events. Conferences and conventions. Nature walks. Sometimes what happens is you go for a walk in nature, and because your intention is set on valuing your physical assets, digital assets, intangible assets, and relationships, knowing that you are right now standing on your own acres of diamonds and that your attention reveals your divine inheritance, ideas start to spring up in your mind, which you can move forward with. Public markets, boutique stores, friends, business events, launch parties, mastermind groups. So essentially at this phase, you're discovering what you would like to turn into a business, start generating some revenue, and then at a particular point, we can go into the next phase. Typically 50,000 to 250,000, but doesn't necessarily mean, again, it's not set in stone because you could have a very refined business doing $50,000 a year, and it could be a side business while you have your full-time career, etc. So you've proved that there is real-world need through market feedback, getting clients, users for your software, etc., initial revenue. So the evidence is there. People want this. It works. Let's build around it. And then you discover ways of optimizing your business on the revenue side, increase the revenues, optimize your operations so your fulfillment is smooth, and you optimize your innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership. If you're interested in this, I have my entrepreneurial program. I'll link in the description to it that gets into this up to a particular degree. And then we can explore the nuances. If you leave a question in the comment, anyone's interested in an upcoming video. And so you focus on that. And what happens is your business grows. It goes from 50,000 a year, let's say, to maybe 250,000 more even. And then now you've got a business that's full-time business, generating around 100,000 or 200,000 a year. Then you might say, let's take it to the next level. So more refinement by valuing what we already have. Now, this doesn't mean that you might not go and look at what other people are doing and find new ways of marketing, new ways of sales. It's an ideal ratio. Personally, what I find is that for me, it was a lot more helpful to focus on what I was already doing and scaling that. And once in a while, in an ideal ratio, testing something to see what happens. Sometimes when you test it, it produces results, and then that might become part of your business, a core marketing or sales initiative that brings up the numbers. So in this phase, which I call stabilization and development, the offers get clearer, the delivery tightens, the brand positioning strengthens. The entrepreneur focuses more on quality, consistency, and refining their model. This can also happen in these other stages. So anything that I teach is not written in stone. It is essentially a guide for really thinking for yourself, clear thinking, and facilitating the release of the conditioning, recalibrating the focus so that your attention reveals your divine inheritance. So we see consistency, focus on quality, refining their models. Systems begin to emerge naturally from the repetition, which can be automated or delegated, and the business continues to grow. So now the business is scaled, and you can take it even further, beyond $1 million. Business evolves. Maybe the founder's personal effort is turned into a system. An operations manager is brought on, or chief operating officer, a CEO may be brought on, depending on the scale. And it gets even more refined, so much so that the entrepreneur or the founder might not want to get involved, that kind of stuff. Maybe that's more suited for the MBAs. And I learned this from my own personal experience because I did 10 years in corporate. It is a more refined style of growing a business, although what I did find was I learned a lot of things from my experience in corporate for 10 years, that from the earlier stages of my IT business, building my YouTube channel, and also consulting practice, I implemented some of those things in the earlier stages that I was inevitably going to implement later on, which entrepreneurs implement later on, like some processes and systems in the earlier stages, because I found it to be helpful in the earlier stages. The answer is it depends. Sometimes those systems or processes might restrict the flow too much in the earlier stages. Sometimes they may support the flow in the earlier stages. The answer is it depends. I like a supportive structure. Some people might think that's based on conditioning. Structure is a bad word. It restricts my flow. Well, there is a supportive structure in flow. There is a supportive structure in flow. Like, for example, think of the artist Peter Tarrant. He has a style of painting, and then I saw pictures of his workspace. It's quite organized, yet it's not restricting his flow. He has everything he needs so he can paint freely. He does these Thursday art displays, and I believe he was involved with some other galleries and so forth. So there is a structure. It's just not restricting his flow. Now, if that business was to scale and he were to add training, facilitation, Etsy, a whole bunch of other things, I don't know, then we could see that systems can be more helpful to be put in, and even technology to put in. Otherwise, the individual has to ensure they physically do all these things, which can be taken care of by the systems, by the processes, by the delegation. So, you are right now standing on your own acres of diamonds. Your attention naturally reveals your divine inheritance. It naturally does. If it doesn't appear that way, it's based on conditioning. And I recommend dissolving that conditioning. As you dissolve the conditioning, you begin to see opportunities which were always there, right in front of your face. They were always there. They're right in front of you right now. If I say something like, Oh, the physical assets, the intangible assets, the digital assets, and relationships are right in front of you right now. Everything you possibly ever need is in front of you and within you right now. In the earlier stages, I would have doubted it. But I can honestly say, I've been applying this information since 2004. Both the metaphysics and all the entrepreneurial stuff that we're talking about on this channel since 2009, and prior to that, 10 years corporate experience, so still business experience for so many years. And I can honestly say that absolutely everyone is standing on their own acres of diamonds. And it just does not appear that way through conditioning. As we dissolve that conditioning, it is revealed. And it is continuously being revealed more so. And you could take it to whatever level you'd like. Some people, some of my friends, they choose to keep scaling their business. Completely fine. Some choose to not do that. They want a particular amount of revenue per month or year to have a wonderful lifestyle, make their contributions through entrepreneurship, benefit people greatly, and then invest the rest. Completely fine. Some people would like to have side revenue. Everything you could possibly ever require to do so, without getting into the specifics of industries and techniques in specific industries, which we can discuss them if you'd like. I can discuss based on experience, definitely. If you would like to, leave a question in the comments and we can explore. Or I could bring on one of my friends or clients and we can have a conversation as they have expertise in that area. I've got clients that are expertise in running ads, for example. And we can get into the nuances. All that stuff emerges along the way. We just get the ball rolling by taking the first step. And the first step is knowing that you are already that which you desire to be. You are that prosperity that you are seeking for beyond these appearances. And as you start stopping the judging by appearances, as stated in the Bible, it does emerge more so with increasing frequency on a continuous basis. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.